Welcome to the Digital Calm, another episode of the Digital Calm. It's episode number 37 we're in now. Back onto our third week now after having a little bit of a break. So, it's nice. It's nice to be, I'm feeling good about being back in the studio again. Because you get into a habit of, having these regular conversations and connecting and getting a chance to explore and expound upon some of the things, I've been doing and thinking during the week. So you good? How's life in your world? I see you got a lot of stuff on your board in the background there, some old thoughts and things like that. But yeah.
Yeah, lots of thoughts were going around in my head whilst we were thinking about our topic for next week. So I plonked those all on the board because then I know they're there, ready for when I'm ready. It has
ready
been
for when I'm
really
ready.
Good week. Yes, ready for when we're ready, I should say. But it's been a great week. And I had something to ask you, but of course I've actually forgotten that. But it is great. You know what? As you said, third episode in this, I want to say an action. It's not an action at all, but, in this stage of our podcast. And I look forward to it every week. And just doing the podcast is actually helping my own personal development because it's helping me focus. It's helping me go deeper into topics. I've noticed that I'm starting to think about things in a different way, a way that's more enriching. It's kind of bringing me home to myself. So I'm loving doing it.
Yeah, very good.
What about you?
While we're up front here, because, in case some people don't get all the way to the end, let me plug up front the fact that we're bringing this now out on, it's got a nice little home on the review platform, so you can subscribe to it. There's a link in the show notes here. We'll leave that there. Plus, if you go onto our Twitter at Digital Calm, it's the very top thing there. It says Digital Calm Podcast, subscribe. You can click on that and that'll hook you up. Or you can go to mixcloud.com/digital calm and you can find the latest episode there plus the previous episode. But if you really want to get into this gig, subscribe. Then you don't have to, you don't have to go do any other thing because it'll come to you in your inbox. And listen, here's the cool thing is that you get the latest episode. You get the video version of that episode. You get the non-music version of that episode. You get the playlist from that episode. And you get all our social links all in that one place. And any of the resources and things we talk about in the podcast will be in that email. So all in one package. And it's right there. It's simple and easy in this busy, crazy world that we live in. How about that for going an extra mile for you and giving you that peace of mind that says, boom, I don't have to just wait for it. It's going to come every Wednesday into your inbox.
Absolutely. And actually, you've just reminded me what I was going to feed back to you. So on Saturday, I had, oh my gosh, I was so excited. I had a whole day with nothing booked in apart from the grocery delivery. So once the grocery delivery had happened and was out of the way, I came into my office, which I call my sacred workspace, because it's kind of the place where I just come and I can hang out and do whatever I want to do. And I shut the door and I went, right, what am I going to do with these 6 hours I have ahead of me? And I thought, I knew what I needed to do and I knew what I wanted to do. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to listen to something. And then I thought, well, what am I going to listen to? So I went to our email from last week and I scrolled down and I clicked on the playlist. And then whilst I was in Spotify, once I'd listened to that playlist, I then listened to Digital Calm 9 and 10's playlist as well. And it was just brilliant. I have to say, you choose some fantastic music. And it was so good to have on in the background whilst I was getting on with a lot of organisation sorting work and just kind of freewheeling in my head. So thanks, Clay.
Awesome. Very good. All right. So what's the game plan today? We're talking about time. Now, time. Now, I know you've been struggling with some time, but I think that's a fairly common thing for people to be struggling with time. And I have to use your words, I have a more practical concept of all of this in relationship to time and time management. But my practical solution for this goes against everybody's willingness to take responsibility for the fact that we all only have 24 hours in a day, and that it isn't actually about time management. It's more about what is important to you and what are the priorities you are setting. So when you go from that basis, everybody has enough time because we all have the same time. 24 hours is all you get in a day. And then you decide, unless you don't have free will, of course, but that's another discussion, then you make choices about how you want to use that 24 hours. So I'm laying my stall up out front.
You really are.
About time. And then I'll get into some more esoteric concepts about time later on. So what's your problem with time?
Well,
or your relationship with time, however you want to put that. What's going on here?
The title of the episode or the topic really is we were talking about our relationship with time. And actually, I'm just going to go straight in with what you were just saying to say that actually then our issue is not time management, but it is about not just prioritizing, but about consciously choosing our priorities and consciously choosing how we spend our time. And so that's really the nitty gritty kind of thing to talk about.
I would submit to you that even that's easy. Just what's important to you. That's the question you have to ask.
No.
Yeah, see, no.
So the kids wouldn't get picked up from school.
That's okay. Some people don't pick their kids up from school. Some people don't feed their kids. Some people go off. No, they don't. We live in a privileged world, you and I, don't we? And you take care of your kids, but not everybody's grown up. I mean, it's an assumption that everybody will look after their kid, but some people, their kid isn't a priority.
And that's a fair point. Yeah. So to me,
it is
my kids are a priority.
Exactly, they're important to you.
However, it hasn't stopped me fighting with the fact that actually I also like to have lots of time. So if I'm kind of an all or nothing kind of girl most of the time. So I like I said, to have 6 hours of time on Saturday was an absolute gift. Can't remember the last time I had that. But actually now my boys are 16 and 18, they're starting to get around under their own steam. Oh my gosh, it's really exciting. And already in the last month, time is being revealed and opened up for both me and my husband. And we're feeling quite different about life as a result. So in terms of our relationship with time or my relationship with time, I basically never took that step back that said, hang on a minute, I'm a mum. And that means there are certain things I have to do differently or less of, or just stop doing altogether. I was forever, and even though I couldn't still do them, in my head, I was fighting. I still wanted to do it.
I think that's a natural thing, though. I think here's the problem that we get into, and here's the trap with time. There's a couple of traps here. One, we in this sort of Western world that we kind of live in, and probably in more than just the Western world, but in a very sort of capitalistic Western world, I'll say, because this is the world I'm in, there's been a big driver about productivity. I mean, we have sayings like, idle mind is a devil's playground. Folks like Benjamin Franklin, who, coined the phrase, time is money. And go on to YouTube and you got all these videos about productivity. So everybody wants to get into a space where let's do more, do more. And if you're not doing something, in quotation, productive, then you're wasting time. So we've got this societal pressure that says, you should be doing more with your time. So, for you, as you say, you want to spend time with your kids, that should all there should be. What do you need to do other things for? I don't know. But then, maybe you feel
because
the pressure.
I enjoy doing the other things, so they were fulfilling.
maybe.
My kids are fulfilling for now they're much more interesting now. I spend all my time with them quite happily. Of course, at this point where they're not interested because they've got their own friends. But when they were younger, I don't think I'm not a natural mother. And I certainly really struggle. Like people always used to say to me, gosh, you're so patient. And I'm like, I'm really not. So I don't know what or who they were looking at when they thought I was patient with my younger children. I mean, I obviously tried to be kind of patient and kind and supportive, but it doesn't mean I enjoyed that side of being a parent.
Well, then that's a whole nother philosophical question. It is. That's a whole nother thing.
Let's get back to time, I think.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, because, some people that I know, that's their whole life. They don't even know, and they don't want to be anything other than that. And they organize their whole entire day around the needs of the kids.
Others.
Or others.
Someone they're caring for.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've had, I've friends, close friends I've had, but that's their utility. And I even had to eventually stop and check myself before I wrecked myself, because I used to think, how can anybody live like that? What do you mean? You must want other things. You must want to, but that's the thing that made them happy. So why change that? If they want to spend every waking hour doing and looking after, and that's the thing that brings them utility, more power to them. But of course, in my younger days, I was in the trap of, yes, got to be productive. You got to maximize life. You got to be all you can be. You got to, and why do the mundane stuff? Because do the things that really, make you feel alive, and yada yada, and on that kind of speech goes. But then from a Zen point of view, now you've created duality. And the moment that we create duality is when you get unhappiness. Because to say I don't have this, or I want this, means you don't have it. And now I've created this split and this tension for my time and attention, because I really would like to be doing this, but I got to be doing this, or I got to drop these ones off here or pick this one up on here. But, I would like to, so there's an absence, and then that absence creates a bit of anxiety, and sometimes lots of anxiety, or it causes angst, or it causes resentment. So it can cause all sorts of negative things, because we create a condition of not having by wanting something. But that's a very Zen way of looking at things from that perspective.
I actually think it's a very
I forgot we're supposed to be playing some music, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No, you carry on.
So I made my point, and then we better play
just going to say, it just suddenly dawned on me, we haven't played a tune yet, and I'm just going crazy here with
actually this is a topic that we are both quite passionate about, and clearly both have a lot to say on, which, to be fair, is not unusual. But I was reading a book by Jean Bolam, I think, and it was it might have been something like goddess archetypes for the older woman. And what she was saying was that if you think about the phases of a woman's maturity, you kind of go from the girl to the kind of the mother to then the juicy crone. There's another story, and maybe we'll talk about that another time. But the point being, from the girl to the mother. And of course, you don't actually have to be a mother. It's about maturing from being kind of in your youth, where you don't have responsibilities, you're not committed to any single thing, you're trying out things, you're finding out who you are, and you're doing lots of exploring in the world. And what she was saying was that actually this shift, this movement to the mother is maybe less about motherhood and more about maturity, when actually you make commitments and you stick to commitments and you find the discipline to make those happen, even when it's challenging. And then you find that there's a deeper richness to life for moving through those kind of thing. And I read that this morning, and actually I kind of went, that is really interesting, because you decide to get married or to have children or to get a pet, and you think it's all going to be nice and lovely and all the rest of it. And yes, you're up for it. And of course, and it doesn't matter how much you prepare, it's still tougher in some way than you were expecting or weren't expecting.
Outstanding. Moments like
Thanks.
these, beauty's confusion.
And I thought when you said beauty is confusion, I thought that was to do with my excitement of what I was sharing about.
Oh, was it? No,
Yeah.
that's the name of the group.
You slipped it in very quickly. It was very good because I was getting carried away.
No, it's all good. It's all good. That's the beauty of being the proprietor of your own podcast. We make the rules around here. If you want rules, you can go join a radio station and be constricted by strict time things and 30-second things. And, you have to say what the station says you can say. But no, that's not how we roll around here.
No. So Zen, duality. I love that idea, actually, because I think what you've just done is explain to a lot of people why they struggle in their heads, because I want this and I don't have it. And it's kind of like, okay. Now, obviously, we would then go into the question of, well, okay, can I create this? So is whatever
time.
It is that I don't have. So exactly, can I create time? And then this comes back to, as we would talk about, well, actually, you can choose how you spend time.
Well, I think in terms of creating time, no, because we only got 24 hours. And then the point of Zen is that you let go of the duality. So I don't want, therefore I don't create lack. But we're talking about being one with self and being one and present. The movement towards that enlightenment would be that I no longer have want, therefore I no longer have lack. Therefore, I no longer have anxiety or distress or, all these other things that come with creating a dualistic system that creates lack and want.
Now, you see, then at that point, I would kind of have the question, well, if you kind of let go of the want or the desire to have everything, then you can end up essentially kind of doing nothing. And I don't mean doing nothing in a positive way. I mean doing nothing in I have no motivation. So that
is Western
huge.
thinking. Now that's Western thinking.
I'm a Westerner.
I know. And that is the programming that we have.
I'm just a programmed automon. Is that what you're saying?
No, we're all are. But this is the insidiousness of it. That is the story. And I know did we talk about stories? No, we're going to talk about stories in the next episode on self-talk. That is a story that we've been told. That's the one you've been telling since just now. You just told it again. That reinforces this concept that if I don't want anything, I'm not striving for something, then am I doing nothing? But yeah, that's a part of a construct of time. I was reading a piece about, I don't know if you come across Tom Hodgkinson, and he's got a book called How to Be Free. And he has a bit in there, one of the chapters is throw your watch away, but he starts to explore time. And before time became a thing, we didn't have the same kind of relationship with time, that you had to be filling it with stuff. And Neil deGrasse, that guy, Neil, he's got a double-barreled name, but it just left me. But anyway, Neil, I'm gonna call him Neil. Yay! If you're listening, we're on first name. Neil. We're on first name basis now.
Give me the name of a book or something.
Nah, he just speaks. So he's a physicist and he speaks all the time and all that. So I could look him on Google if I wanted to, but I'm in flow. So he pointed out that even before we didn't know what time was to start with, but we were observant, i.e., we noticed that the sun was in different parts of the sky during the day. We noticed the moon, and then we started to notice seasons. But in the beginning, we used to think, of course, that, everything rotated around us, but later we got busy and learned that actually we're rotating around the sun and all that. But anyway, Hodgson points out the fact that you had this loose notion of time, but it wasn't all necessarily uniform time. So my village or my little precinct, we had a little town crier and the like, and we might be moving to a separate place. It was when we brought in the concept of merchant time, i.e., let's get everybody in being productive, capitalist, producing stuff, but we need to have everybody in sync. So let's get this whole sort of clock and watch thing down and standardize time so that we can, Benjamin Franklin times money, be more productive. If you're doing something other than being productive to make money, think in that hour that sat under the apple tree, that was worth 5 shillings, that you could have made 5 shillings in that time. So then we became in that space where it's like, oh, you're not productive. Or if you're looking at the Puritans in the States, if you're not productive, then you're probably contemplating some bad stuff, sin, lusting after women, drinking. So you need to be productive and occupied. But that's just a thing that's kind of crazily that's been put into us. The other thing I'll say about that is that time is the only dimension that we can't manipulate. We can manipulate up and down, back and forth, but we can't manipulate time. We can't speed time up. We can't slow it down. We can't go back to the past or anything. So we're, in essence, stuck in time, or prisoner of time, if you will.
I like that. I'd not even thought of that. So we can manipulate light. We can manipulate
space.
Frankly, sadly, we can manipulate the climate and the weather. We just didn't realize we were doing it, which is why it's important we make some conscious choices now. But I hadn't thought about the fact that we can't manipulate time, but you are absolutely right. So it's all about actually taking kind of almost stepping outside of time and then making that conscious choice how you're going to spend your time. When we talk about time, then I'm always going to mention Stephen Covey, of course. Great quote that I didn't know was his, but came up whilst I was doing my research this week. And it said, "It is possible to be busy, very busy, without being very effective."
Absolutely. We do that day in and day out. We're always busy.
Absolutely.
Name me a person that doesn't say I'm not busy. Most everybody, I'm too busy. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm too busy.
Yeah, then definitely the people that I know aren't like that at all. But it is about how do I spend my time so that I am effective, or what I'm doing is effective, depending on where you're coming from.
And that has to be, further clarified to say, well, what is effective, and what are you trying to be effective at? So what are you trying to achieve? So yeah, it's multi-layered in that sense. So I want to be effective at what, and for what reason do I want to be effective? But, maybe it's for your job or whatever it might be, but, having that second part of that equation to do it. And you can, even in workplaces, if you think about the whole concept, and it's changed now because of this whole hybrid working, and where, businesses are moving more towards outcome focus. One, because I can't see you all day. I don't know what the hell you're doing necessarily. So I have to create the conditions where I say, here's the outcomes I need. And as long as you produce those, everybody's happy. But when we were in a space where we go into the office and work in the 9 to 5, most people aren't working from 9 to 5. We're doing meetings, we're at the water cooler, we're surfing email, we're doing we don't actually work flat out from 9 to 5 most times. But we're busy. But
Absolutely.
That doesn't necessarily mean we're productive. But you're doing lots of stuff and moving, shuffling papers from one side of the desk to the next, or, I'm running from pillar to post, but am I actually being productive in that sense? Am I making the best use of that time? Or, some people get clever enough to know that, you're paying me for 8 hours. I got to be here from 9 to 5, but I know this job only really takes me, 3 hours. So I'm going to stretch time out and make it last to the end of the day, because, I don't necessarily want to do any more work. But, as long as the boss sees me doing some stuff, then we're good. And then others stay late. Others stay past the time that they're paid for because it seemed like, they're putting in the time and they're here till 6:37, but they're not doing anything, but they just want to be seen. They don't want to be the first one to walk out the door. And that happens all over the place.
And I'll lob in another one. So, and others stay late, which is what I used to do, because I knew that given all the kind of the meetings and the conversations and the way that I'd spent my time in the office, I hadn't actually got the work done that I wanted to get done, that I was being paid for. So I'd stay late so that I could actually get the work done when nobody else was in the office. And I think that's really, all of those I think are actually a really interesting understanding of how people spend their time and what actually we think work is. And now we're in a stage where, people say, I've got so much pressure on at work and I don't know what I should do first and I can't do all my work. But actually there's two things going on. I think there are very much cases where companies are downsizing, but they're not reviewing the workload. But I also think that people have created this workload, but haven't actually analysed what the value of all of those different tasks are, and if they actually do have any value or not.
And sometimes we create our own, you do something that goes up because we're under pressure, and you do something above and beyond, but then that becomes the expected norm. Well, you did it that once, why can't you do it? But then that becomes the norm, and suddenly, the more of those to tack on, and of course you're pushed from pillar to post and sort of crazy. I'm gonna go to a song, and then I'll come back and I'll lay my last little bit of practical knowledge on time management, if that's really something that if people wanting to, how do I manage time? I always laugh because it's just about discipline. But anyway, here is "But I Do" by Palador. All right, so cool. This my last little practical piece on time. And whenever I work with anybody in this space on time, I always, bring up the classic model of the urgent and important. So if you're wanting to figure out how to organize some of this time you have, you've got the 4 quadrants. So you got things that are urgent, but they're not important. And you got things that are important, but not urgent. Then you've got things that are urgent and important. And you got stuff that are not urgent and not important. The stuff that is in the not urgent, not important box is the stuff you want to do the least of, endlessly scrolling your Instagram feed, or I don't know, looking at emails that you don't need to be necessarily looking at might fall into that category. And then, the stuff that's important but not urgent, you want to plan so that it doesn't get to the space where it's urgent and important and is demanding your time right then and there. And then the other one you want to be wary of is the urgent, not important. Like the phone ringing is urgent because a ringing phone demands to be picked up. Or if you're looking on your phone and you see those little icons that says you got a message on WhatsApp or you've got a message and your messenger, those are urgent because they say, you got some messages, check them. But they're not important. So again, leave that box alone. So those are quadrants. Filter your stuff into that and make your decisions accordingly.
So where does that come from, Clay? Where do those, quadrants come from?
Yeah, there's a model. I think even Stephen might talk about this a little bit. And there's a particular model that this comes from as well.
It's fundamental to the 7 habits of highly effective people. And I'm so sorry, but this is really, really important. So, I deliver consultancy for Franklin Covey. I am wedded to this model, and I cannot believe that you were just sliding it in and slipping by. So, yeah.
Well, because I didn't want to spend an inordinate amount of time on it.
But just let's acknowledge where it came from before I get a rap on the knuckles.
It's called the priority matrix. And so, I mean, I know Franklin Covey does it, but again, it doesn't necessarily mean he's invented it, because it's also called the Eisenhower matrix as well. I mean, there's a number.
Okay. So
I mean, there's a number of different versions.
So
But no, I don't
Eisenhower
want to get into that.
created the
Forget about that.
matrix. No, because we do have to acknowledge this
Okay.
for a variety of reasons. So
You can put it in the
Eisenhower,
show
it was his
notes.
matrix.
Or they can Google it. If you really want to know, Google it. And you can go into the depth and the details of that aspect. I think I only brought that up to say, if you're, or talk to Naomi for that matter, if you want to take a deep dive.
Because I really can.
If you want to take a deep dive in that matrix and how to use it. Because usually where I work with this is, there it is. And part of this becomes about discipline in terms of, one, having the discipline to do that and to use that matrix to help you to organize your time. But then you'll get people who are too busy to organize their time, even when you give them that tool to sort of work with. But anyway.
And I think that's, so to move on from there, because I can really feel that you want to, but this is when it goes back to the priorities. It goes back to people understanding actually, what is motivating them, what is driving them, and more importantly, what is it that they're working towards. So once you start to understand that, then you can make more conscious choices about how you spend your time. Whether that be, and this is the key thing that people do forget sometimes, relaxation is important. You need to relax. You need to freewheel so that you can rejuvenate yourself and then do the things that you have to do or want to do in a way that you are happy with. And it's
there's
only
a couple of people that dispute that, and the guys that are proponents. Well, of course, I mean, they're in a sort of hustle economy, and they get a lot of flack from people in the well-being community that says that they're promoting unhealthy working space and the hustle priority is not good for people. And essentially their reply is, if you want to go and do fishing and do things that make you happy to relax, then I don't berate you of that. The thing that I like to do, the thing that makes me happy is that I am working, 18-hour days. But my utility in that, it's the thing that makes me happy. When I'm unhappy is if I'm forced to do these other things because people think that's the thing to do.
Okay, so then that's exactly the point. The point is you take your time and you choose how you use it. It may be that you fish for 18 hours a day, or it may be that you work for 18 hours a day, or it might be that you do neither. It's not about looking at what other people do. It's about looking at what you do and taking responsibility for your own actions.
And I think that's the thing that I think that's the bit that's easy to say but hard to do. But everything is like that, isn't it? So, again, we've got the programming to go against. You got other people who are competing for your time and attention, or even maybe stealing time and attention for you that puts you behind, but then maybe you're not in the power or position to prevent that, or maybe the relationship, you're just not in a position to do anything about that except for live with it. So there's lots of different components and nuances. So I think we say it, and it's easy to say, but it's not necessarily easy to execute. Otherwise,
absolutely,
more people would be doing it, because it seems a very simple concept. It's not a hard concept to understand, and it's actually not a hard concept to implement if you want to. But it takes discipline. It takes a desire to want to do it. You've got other parts of your personality to battle with. I mean, if you're a people pleaser, there's no way you're going to do any of this, because you'll put other people's needs ahead of your own, even though that means you're going to be strapped for time and hurting. There's any number of other parts of yourself that can be in competition with that. And that's the point. People come and I want to do time management. I run these time management courses. I just finished doing some time management coaching, a few weeks ago with two different people, but, very similar stories. And again, the concept is there and the concept is easy, but there's other things that are actually going on in that space that prevents them from doing the thing that they want to do, or even apart from saying they want to. There's some other nuances going on that is at work underneath the surface or subconsciously that's driving a different behavior.
So one of the other things that we, in preparing for the show, you mentioned Daniel Kahneman's book. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but Thinking Fast and Slow. And I found that quite interesting. It's a long time since I read it, so I took a little dive back in, and there was a variety of things here, you know, very briefly in case people haven't read the book. But it's based on the understanding that we've kind of got two main ways of thinking. There's the fast, automatic thought process. Boom, you make a decision in that moment, you act on it. And then there's the slow, more rational, logical kind of thinking. And using those two concepts, actually the thing that he was covering is that both are absolutely essential for human survival. But the key is using the right type of thinking at the right time. So, you know, the right type of thinking for the job in hand, as it were. And we've kind of got out of that. You know, quite a lot of us are making maybe fast gut reaction decisions when actually we would benefit from slowing down our thinking and processing or assessing and making decisions from that part. And then sometimes we really sit on things and we take our time to think about, should we, shouldn't we, you know, I'm not sure whether could I, and then the moment's gone and we never get to do it. And then, of course, we can just go, oh, well, it never happened. And then from there, all sorts of things can erupt.
Yeah, well, that's cool. And I think one of the things that I took away from that particular book was this concept that we overthink the amount that we could do in any given space and time. So we overestimate what we can do in any given point of time. And I think, again, if you're thinking about your relationship with time, that there accounts for a lot of the self-inflicted time wounds, as it were, because, you know, you have your to-do list and you fill it up with all these things, and then you've got all these meetings, you got all of your day planned out. And it's stuffed full of stuff, but not accounting for the fact that, you know, unexpected things happen, not accounting for the fact that some things run over, or lots of things take way longer than you think they're going to take. And then suddenly you're in a deficit because I haven't got all the things on my to-do list, and then it's just all getting backed up, and this is due and that's due, and then we're getting stressed and we're going crazy. And so one of the things, and this is back to sort of Tom Hodgkinson's book, and he kind of advocates in line with that is not to put that many things in your diary. And so you leave bigger spaces in your diary. So, you know, I know somebody, and it's hard to get a meeting with them because they have every single minute of, literally every minute is blocked. And you can sometimes find a 30-minute slot in their diary, but not very often. Which is just insane for one. But I do know that person also habitually reschedules meetings a lot because another one overrun and the like. But anyway, he says to take things out of the diary and not to overload it. You know, so for instance, for me, and it's not because of this particular book, but just the way that I organize myself with time and relationship with time, is I don't actually have that much in my diary. Like today, I had to put 2 things in: abstract and digital calm, nothing else. I know there's lots of it, you know, I've got stuff that I'm working on and doing and the like, but the only thing in the diary, because there are only 2 hard target things that I had to do. The rest I can play with the time that I have and manipulate time in different ways, but I'm not under any pressure. I haven't put any self-imposed pressure on myself to fill up all those spaces in the diary. And tomorrow I'll just put, max 3 things in my diary at any one time. Yes, there's other things I have to do, but I look at it and I think of all the things I got to do. What are the 3 things that if I did nothing else tomorrow, it's a win. I'm done. I'm good. And if I get those 3 things done, then everything else is just gravy. So you'll look at my diary and you think, he's not that busy at all, because I just simply don't overload my diary.
But you still have a kind of a to-do list that you would pick up things when you...
So I use kind of that get things done methodology.
Okay. The David Allen.
Yeah. So you throw everything in your inbox, then you look in the inbox, pull off the 3 things you want to work on. Then if you got, you finish those 3 things, you can go back in the inbox and pull some more stuff out. So that's really my main productivity management tool is that one.
Yeah, you being all practical tonight, and I'm trying to stay away from it. So, should we have another song?
Yeah, why not?
Cool.
Hell is around the corner, especially when you're dealing with time. Time for a commercial real quick. So if you're here in the middle of this space here, I just want to remind you to, if you want to get the digital comm delivered to your inbox, then the best thing to do is subscribe. So if you don't want to miss an episode and you don't want to be looking all over the internet, or you don't want to get ambushed because you went onto Twitter or wherever and you get ambushed by all the news feeds, so you can cut all that out by subscribing to the podcast. It comes to your inbox every Wednesday, and then you've got everything there that you need. And you got all this music you'll get. You can listen to the podcast again, minus the music, and so on. So very important, do that. And if you are a subscriber already, help us spread the love by sharing the newsletter and the link with other people as well. All right, so cool time. Now, there were some interesting things that came out of this How to Be Free that I liked as well, when he was talking about throw away your watch, and that the watch is a symbol of the shackle that we wear because it attaches us to this clock time. Now, the guy doesn't advocate that you throw away your responsibilities and, you don't be places that you need to be, but it's more about, again, your relationship to time. And he says, living in clock time prohibits living in the moment because you're always worried about what has to be done in the future rather than inhabiting the actual moment. And part of the habit to cultivate is to let things happen, and things will happen. And to abandon kind of the expression of free time, what I'm going to do with my free time. He's an advocate that all time is free. And when you start using words like free time, you begin to imply the opposite of slave time. So, I've got to do this. I'm held in bondage by this other time. But, if I have my free time, this is what I'll kind of do stuff with my free time. So I thought those were interesting concepts to me. And I think there's a little bit of the sort of Zenness in there. So he kind of mentions, learning to abandon merchant time and embrace natural time again. And then again, not to go, stupid crazy, but filling your diary up to the minute under the guise of being productive, or time is money and they got to produce and do more, be more, all that stuff that gets kicked around on social media. Which I buy wholeheartedly into that, because I know that, consciously or subconsciously, it's the way that I organize my kind of life. It was funny because Ruth was laughing. Well, 2 things raised her eyebrows today or this week. One was, like, I'm doing this 23-mile challenge on Thursday, walking in the Peak District. But I actually started packing for it on Sunday, which is unlike me. So that raised some eyebrows to say, what? What? What day is today? But I knew I had a bunch of stuff going on during this week. So I thought, to save me having to go find stuff, I'd just find some of the things and throw it downstairs anyway. So there was that. And I forgot the other thing. It was just something about, asking about, something for me to do in November. And I'm like, come on, please. I don't even think past tomorrow, let alone thinking about November. So, so for me, tomorrow, maybe the next day is about the extent that I go out in terms of planning.
Yes, but you have Ruth to do that for you.
No, she doesn't do that for me because we're not on the same plane on that end. If there's nothing for her to organize for me, really. I don't know what you mean by that. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, fine.
I don't know. What would you mean? But when you said that, what did you mean?
If you're organising to see family or friends.
No, they don't even tell me anymore. They tell me at the last minute because I don't really.
But they've already organised it.
But because they try to include me in it and to organize it, and I'll either come or I won't come. So if I'm available, then I'll go. If I'm not available, then I don't go. So.
See, and again, I think that's an insight. And I think for some people, that'll be quite inspirational. And they'll kind of go, oh, wow, that's a choice. And it's quite interesting. I mean, I have friends who do literally organise their husband's social life. And it is that why.
Leave it alone, yeah.
I would never do that. I would always check with Nick, my husband, or I say check with, actually, that's not true. It would always be an open discussion. This is going on. Are you interested? I would never sign up for anything, however, without talking to him first. So again, it's kind of just interesting the way different people run their relationships and with regards to time. So one of the things that I wrote down when I was thinking about today's episode, so are you making time for the things that you love and for the people that you love? And that was kind of, I mean, you mentioned fishing earlier, and whilst I am not a fisher person, in my mature years, I can really see the value in fishing, and would actually be quite up for going fishing. Although maybe not today, as we're recording, the rain is pouring down really heavily. But but that's
I was a big fisherman for a long time.
Were you?
Yeah, in my sort of 20s and stuff. In fact, I got a whole garage full of
fish,
lures and tackle boxes and fishing poles and nets, and it was huge. In fact, I used to be so into it when we were in Georgia. I always had a fishing pole in the trunk, and then at lunch I would zip off to the river and fish during my lunch hour. Me and a buddy of mine. We would go after work. Sometimes we'd go before work, before PT, and go fishing because there was a lake on the way to the base. We'd just meet there, get an hour in fishing before we go to PT. So I used to fish loads.
I love that. I really love that. Yeah, I see. And I've never had, I've not yet found something that's kind of that strong a pull, if you like, that I would be able to do that in my lunchtime. No, actually, that's not true. I take that back. I have done in recent years. But yeah, so I'm kind of now thinking of huge different things. And then I had loads of notes that we talked about. But one of the things that I wanted to mention, certainly in terms of your relationship with time, is, is it your relationship with time, and you touched on this earlier, is it your relationship with yourself? So if you are a people pleaser, for example, you may not even be aware of it, but exactly as you said earlier, somebody has a need that you can fulfill. And it might be because they're your boss, or it might be because they're your child, but suddenly everything that you'd planned goes to one side because they're the priority, even though what they're asking you to do actually isn't that important and can wait. But there's a whole load of other things around that. And then the other thing that I really wanted to share, and maybe we've got time to talk a little bit about, is something whereby sort of life is brought into question, shall we say. So, suddenly you are maybe given a certain amount of time to live, and it's quite a short time. That deep realization that actually you might not have all the time that you think you have, that can lead to clarity and taking action. And that might be because the fear is cleared away of you stopping yourself from taking action. Or it might be that you do it regardless of the fear because you feel you've got nothing to lose at that point.
Yeah, and we talked about this on the episode when we had Dave on as a guest, didn't we?
A long time ago. That was the wisdom experience incarnation.
Yeah, and that was, we talked about the death meditation, that where you kind of put yourself in the mind, imagination, and go through that space of having a year left, 6 months left, down to an hour, I think we did. And what would you do with your time then if you knew the end date? And again, it's always, I think, like I guess it was last week, someone same age as I am, who we were close to in the States, and the husband died. But unexpectedly, it wasn't like he was sick and he didn't get in an accident, just died. But then it reminds you that anytime you could go. So again, when you're thinking about what's important to me, what is it that I want to spend my time on, there is that natural tendency for us to assume that we're going to live forever. It's just kind of part of our makeup, human things. We know logically that we're not going to live forever, but we organize our lives as if we are going to live for a long, 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 long time. I don't need to worry about that yet, because we assume we've got another day. And so I think some of it's about appreciating the fact that any day could be your last. If we want to get really philosophical here, is that, any day could be your last, so live each day as if it was your last day. So live it more deliberately, live it, and do more of the things that you find that are important to you, more of the things that lift your spirit, lift your soul. And then also from a Zen point of view, don't fight the other things. So, everyone has the 24 hours in a day. You know that. Think about the things that are in your life and however the reason that they're in your life, and then accept that they are part and parcel to the script that you're playing out right now. And then instead of fighting it, embrace it and live with it. And just jam. Because as soon as you make it a contest, then, and I think I've told the story on the podcast before, where when I was younger-ish, one of the reasons I started getting up at 4 a.m. is because, when the kids were younger and they say, you got to spend time with the kids and you got to spend time with my wife, and I was employed, so you had to work. And I used to be like, oh, when am I going to get some clay time? So I started getting up at 4 a.m. And then that gave me from 4 to 7 to do my clay stuff. I still get up now. I don't get up at 4 a.m. as much. I get up at 4:30, between 4:30 and 5. Occasionally I'll sleep until 5:30, but I'm up between 4:30 and 5:30 basically every day. But it gives me then a block of time to which everyone else is asleep. Nobody wants anything from me. I don't need to be opening up emails. I don't need to be checking. It is clay time. And that's what I use it for. But there was a point in time in when the kids were younger, and they're like, where I felt like, well, I can't go do this. I can't go climb a mountain. I got to do this. I had all these things. I had that space where it felt like everybody wanted a piece of me. If it wasn't at work, then it was at home and kids and wife and all that. And I was like, dang. So I was feeling really, I was getting, there was a lot of tension there. Then I did that Camino walk, and I had my little light bulb moment that I was trying to be. I guess I had externalized, externalized who I am, or externalized the thing that makes me happy. I externalized that. And when I couldn't do those things, then that made me unhappy. When I internalized my happiness, then I could do those things and not do those things, and it didn't matter. So no longer then there was no longer a competition between it and the wife or the kids or any of that. So if I did it, I did it. If I didn't do it, I didn't do it, and it didn't matter. And it didn't affect me as in I'm sad because I didn't get to do it. It's just it didn't happen. Okay, well, it was just that thing that, like Tom says, let things happen and things will happen. And once I had that reconciliation with time, then I was good.
Excellent. That was a really, really lovely summary, I think, of everything that we've talked about, and a lovely way to actually bring us to the conclusion of the show is how it feels.
Yeah. Okay. So relationship to time. Yeah, I like this discussion because I get it works. It's a number of different levels for me. I think it's that end where I think it's the mind piece that you have to lick if you really want to lick time management, as it were. So for me, the concept is not actually that hard end or that difficult. It really comes down to what's important to you is the real question it comes down to, and then what's your priorities. And then making decisions between those, and you don't have to think about your time. You know where the time goes. And then I guess the third part that underpins that is that you always have a choice, and not everybody believes they have choices that they can make, but everybody has choices. You might not like, and you might say, "Oh, I would never do that," but you can find plenty of examples of people who will do that because it suits them, because the thing that's important to them is something else that's different from what's important to you.
Indeed. And I know we should never really, throw something in right at the very end. But there is a wonderful, wonderful woman called Yasmin, brady, and that's not how you pronounce her surname, but I can't remember how you pronounce it. And I know her. I've met her in real life. I've spoken to her several times, and she is a fabulous woman. And I'm holding up this book because it's a pretty color, but it's also called Tiny Time, Big Results. And it's a book really aimed at people who want to run their own businesses, who don't have a huge amount of time. So she's a mother of 3. The youngest has just started school, so she really does know what she's talking about. And she had a corporate learning and development background, actually. So I wanted to share that because actually she covers essentially 4 principles to run your profitable 20-hour-a-week business. But the point of sharing it is because I think that's useful to everybody, regardless or not of if you run your own business. And I think there are lots of things that you can read. I think there's lots of your own choices that you can make. And it's being almost kind of powered from within is, what is it that's going to help me spend my time doing what I want to do in a way that I find fulfilling. And getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning ain't ever going to do it for me.
Yeah, and it's not a lot. I mean, I know there's that whole movement. I was doing this before it became a thing. If you go onto YouTube and the whole 5 a.m. club, Robert Sharma is pushing the 5 a.m. club.
Wow.
Isn't it? Yeah, so...
I've not seen.
No, well, he's pushing
because I'm avoiding social media at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I do get sucked down that drain pipe.
He's been pushing that for a while. Then, of course, he pushed it. So then all the other little influencers are pushing the 5 a.m. or try 5 a.m. But again, you got to work to, I get up. Not people, again, we can talk about biorhythms and stuff like that.
Exactly,
it might not be your rhythm at that time of the day. So maybe you do it on the other end. Maybe you don't. there's some people who don't go to bed till 3 a.m. Because that's their time, where they're more productive. I've got, I know, I have friends who they work on that end. I work in the beginning end, and then other people are sort of stuck in the middle, I guess. But so I was the OG. Well, actually, the Army, we got up early anyway as well. But still, even then, when people had to get up, because not everybody was a morning person. I just happened to always have been a morning person. So getting up was no big deal for me. And, and I don't even use an alarm clock. So it's not like I'm forcing myself up.
No.
I just wake up at that time naturally. and ready to go and do my thing.
Awesome. In fact, as you would say, outstanding.
Yeah, that's how I roll. Okay, so one more time for the commercial. You can tell them about it now.
So, well, what is the actual link for people to come and sign up for the email? I know it's review, and that's all I can remember.
Yeah, it's so long, but if you want to, in its longness, I mean, we're going to put it in the show notes to this. But the
but
best
people
place
have
to go
to see the show notes.
Best place to go to Twitter @DigitalCalm, and it's right there in your eyeballs. It says the Digital Calm subscribe weekly podcast, because it's now built into Twitter. So that's the easiest way to get to it. If you want the long URL for it, which I guess you could rewind this thing and keep going back to it. The URL, actually, it's not that bad. It's getreview.co/profile/digitalcalm if you want a direct link. But
so listen, I'm a quick writer and I managed to write get review. And I got some slashes and that's it. So tell me again, get review.
Yeah, so getreview.co/profile/digitalcalm, or just go to Twitter @digitalcalm and your life will be sorted.
Okay. And
if you made it this far, you'll see it in one of the show notes somewhere.
Depending on where you've picked it up. Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing is, though, to listen to us on a regular basis, it really is going to be the easiest way is to sign up for the email. That's all we'll send you each week. We send you the show notes. We send you the links to this full episode that has the words and the music. Then there's also a link to the words only episode if that's what you want to concentrate on. And then there's also a link to the playlist, which, as I said earlier in the show, you can use in the background whilst you're doing whatever you like. So, and if you just want to listen to it, but you don't want to sign up, then it's mixcloud.com/digitalcalm, I believe.
Yep, that's it. That's all.
Fabulous.
It's as easy as that. And if you want to support the podcast, then the best way to support it at this point in time is to like and share it in your social spaces. Forward the email onto your networks.
Please.
And help spread the word and help the thing grow. So we can continue to do it. And we won't even hit you up with any money yet, but maybe that might be coming. Well, it's all free for now.
Exactly. What we would really like to get to is 100 listeners every week. And so, yes, if you could share that, we would be hugely grateful because that's the way of the world. But because we want to reach more people, we believe that what we're sharing is interesting. We believe that it's interesting in a way that allows you to make different connections going on in your mind, and therefore to make different decisions and choices, to think about things in a different way than maybe you have previously, or to remind you of different ways. So let's get that word out.
As we believe, then you'll share it. That's how you can. If you don't believe, then don't share it.
Well, no, but to be fair, if you don't believe, share it too, because that's the whole point. We want to generate conversation.
If you don't like it, then go find another podcast. There's plenty of podcasts.
Not liking it is one thing, but I was meaning if people don't agree with what we're saying, that's okay.
I mean, if they don't like the podcast, as in, what's this junk? I don't want to listen to this junk.
Yeah, in that case, absolutely.
I'm not certainly not going to share with any of my friends who forget that. If that's your attitude, get the hell out of here. We don't want none of you. Nothing to do with you. Go away.
Brilliant. Right.
All right, there we go. Last tune that'll play us out, and then we'll see you next week. Next episode will be out
next Wednesday.
So keep Wednesday. Be looking in your inbox for it to come in your inbox next Wednesday. This is called Right Days.